What is up, Scrub fam? I am here with a video. It's been a really long time presenting on the FOE PPG YouTube channel. Shout out to our sponsor, the George Machado, the Pro Play Games. Thank you so much for being our sponsor. And today I'm going over my second place first loser deck profile. I played Mecha Frieza. I refer to the deck as Monarch. Um, no reason why, just because the leader's name has Resurrected Monarch, and I think it sounded really cool, and it went with the overall fact that the deck was really cool and comboing and tempoing. And I was just like, it's like the king, bro. It's the Monarch. So I call the deck Monarch. You can call it whatever you want. You can make fun of me. It's fine either way. But anyway, I want to go ahead and do a deck breakdown so you know what I played, why I played it, and then also the card choices behind it. And so hopefully, whether if you want to take and tweak this or tune this, you can go into your next event, have some fun, whether it be best of one, best of three, you can figure it out. But let me start off with the mission behind the deck and why I chose to play the deck. So number one, there's a lot of really competitive strategies out there, and everything feels overall either really linear, which isn't a bad thing, but like leaves you susceptible and open to the fact that your deck is reliant on a certain subset of cards in order to function. And I didn't really like leaning into a strategy that was really linear. And at the same time, looking at the Mecha Frieza decks, I felt like they were all trying to accomplish something that just wasn't going to make sense. If you're playing against decks like King Piccolo or Dark Broly, like using the Bojack Arrival and using the Slug package just isn't going to get the job done. Like the game's going to go on late, and your deck is not a late game deck by any means because you're a leader that has to take its own life in order to play its best game. And so the fact that you're doing that and reducing your life total on your own just means that you're taking your ability to play a later game just completely off the table. And it's hard to grind people out even with Slug on the table because it's like you don't have this amazing control finisher or way to close the game once you're on turn 4, 5, 6, etc. So the goal of my version of the deck is to try and close the game as quickly as possible, and also I want to see almost every card I have available to me. I play the United Symbols. I play some planets. I tutor as much of the deck as possible. I get through my life as quickly as possible. There's a lot of games on the stream where you see me aggressively go down to 1 on turns where I kind of know that the game is going to be coming to an end, and I have to like try and find a way to win. So I went ahead and took the build in a different direction. Of course, Mono Yellow Frieza, Mecha Frieza has been on the map. Blue Yellow has been on the map, but I did a couple things, changed some ratios, worked with teammates, Jose, Frisco, Richard, and then I talked to Eddie the week of the event just to go over my initial list and then where we could make some changes and some upgrades. And at first, like his first initial impression was to deviate like from what my current strategy was and then go towards something that was more traditional. But then as we talked through it and start to put things together, he truly saw what I was trying to accomplish, which what I'm trying to accomplish is I'm playing the game really aggressively. I want to end the game as quickly as possible. The amount of turn 3 wins I had was pretty substantial. My record in Swiss, I ended up being 4-2. I started off 4-0, 8-0 in games, and then I lost to Legends round 5, 2-1, and then I lost to the Power Thirst Black Mass Saiyan deck 0-2 in round 6 because I just had no idea what was happening, and I played that game way too aggressively, taking my own life, whereas I should have been more conservative, which was my plan at Top Cut. So those were my 2 losses in Swiss. Went into the Top Cut, beat King Piccolo 2-0 in top 16, turn 3 kills both games. Top 8 beat Legends 2-1. Since I had more experience in that matchup now, I knew what my approach needed to be, and then I just basically formed a narrative that the whole entire game was going to come down to me being really aggressive, having an appropriate sideboard strategy both on the play and on the draw, and then making it come down to leader swing plus cooler to close the game out. So that's what was my approach in that set. And then top 4, I played against Power Thirst Black Mass Saiyan deck. Again, I took a more conservative approach. I didn't take my life as aggressively, except for when I was trying to win the game or close the game out, or I knew I was heavily advantaged. And then I lost in the finals to Vijx. Game 1, really difficult situation to be in. Game 2, I had a line to win. I just completely missed it. I had 5 energy. I had a planet in my hand, and I was looking to tutor something, whether it be an ape or something. But I just didn't look through my drop area or my warp to see what I had already played. But all I needed to actually do was hard cast the Shapil in my hand, hard cast the Cooler in my hand, and that would have put me at exactly Successor 12 on board. And then he only had 2 cards in hand, so I could have played Selzeno, rip the last 2 cards, swing once, put him down to 4, and then swing with Selzeno for game. And if he, for some reason, rips in a gate off the top, I still have a full board established to be able to get the game closed out. So I had the ability to take it to a game 3. Either way, I messed up. Long day, lots of rounds, lots of playing games. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the matches that you did see me play on stream. And thank you so much for all the support and all the love I've gotten in the past 24 hours based off the performance in the tournament. It was really awesome. It's been great to kind of come back after a while. And even though life's busy, being able to take something that started off as mostly theory with minimal testing and then be able to apply that throughout an entire tournament felt really cool. Regardless of your opinion on Mecha Frieza, I think that you'll really like this deck in general just because of the way it functions. So let me go through the deck itself, go through the card choices so you can kind of see what my thought process was. So move it down. All right, so going through the list, first things first, I want to get this out of the way just because this card, people saw me play on stream a lot, but 4 of the promos. So the 4 promos are, of course, fantastic defensively because you don't have to worry. You have a strong floodgate that you can activate as early as turn 2 in your deck with no problem at all. The moment that your opponent has 2 energy available and you have those resources, whether it be in your energy or in your drop area, you're going to have this negate online. And the reason why I went this route, 4 of these and being really aggressive is because not only is it great defensively to set up your Bergamo, because the goal of the deck is to tap the opponent out as quickly as possible so you can kind of just have your way with them. But additionally, the permanent itself reduces it. It doesn't matter what turn it is. So whether if it's your turn, their turn, as long as your opponent has 2 energy and there's a total of 2 extra cards in the energy area and drop area, then you can play this just as a 1-cost 15k, which is great because if you're trying to complete Successor 12, you just pay 1, play this on the board, that's already 3. Which is pretty incredible. So card overperformed throughout the weekend. A lot of people, after seeing it on camera, the way that it functioned, now see that the power of this card is not only just how good it is defensively, but then aggressively as well, especially in a deck that's all relying on Selzeno. So I played 4 of the new promo. I'm sure everyone's going to talk about how expensive that is, but we know that this is a money game, sadly. So next thing I'll go over, probably the card that got the most amount of questions was the 4 Mecha Frieza full assaults. This is kind of the thing that made me deviate away from the traditional decks, right? Because this card here, highly undervalued, but what's kind of brilliant about it is that, number 1, you don't have to play it during a combo step, and number 2, you can play it on the opponent's turn still. So you can use this, in combination with any of your counterplays as long as they're an extra card. And it's just an auto for a yellow. If your leader card is mono yellow and it's your opponent's turn, when you activate a yellow extra card, play this card from your hand, and you can't play copies of this card at the turn. So you can only play 1, but then it has an auto. When this card is played, look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 1 mono yellow extra card among them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So speaking about Mecha Frieza, right, when we talk about the deck's functionality, the deck seems to function the best when it has access to Universe Night Assemble. So why not go down a route that lets you play more copies of Unite Assemble, or just gets you to that extra card, or helps you filter your deck? This card is incredibly clutch, and it sounds a little nuanced, but like game 1 against King Piccolo, and they're on the play, or you're on the play, whatever, being able to giant ball in response to something, play this, and then have it available to swing at the Piccolo Jr. Unison is really strong. It's actually what takes that matchup from being mostly negative in people's eyes to, in my opinion, it's very much positive. Like, I feel favored in that matchup just because of the disruptive elements I play, plus this card itself. Additionally, this card just in general, if you're on the play turn 1, or even on the draw, and you're just like charging, passing, and leaving up giant ball plus this card, think about the advantage you're getting. You're going to rest a threat, you're going to take a life, you're going to draw a card, you're going to search the top 5 for an extra card, add it to your hand, and you have a 15k body on the board. Card is incredibly strong. I'm surprised not more people talked about it, but this is a card that I'll be continuing to play into set 13 and it's currently my set 13 mecha list now, but love this card to death. So playing cards that tutor cards is good, and it's a 4 cost, right? So we're on that Cell Zeno plan we talked about. So there's so many ways to make it. This is another way. The obvious choice, Bergamo, 4 copies. We go hard on Bergamo. We go hard in the paint on Bergamo because we're going to be able to trigger it so often every single game, and it's a part of our win condition. Locking the opponent out of their energy for the turn, turning their functionality off, is so paramount to this deck's success. So having access to 4 Bergamo, you'll never play any less. If you play any less, there's no reason why. I never sided this card out in any game. It's probably the best card in the deck, and even though your opponent can play around it, the fact that they have to play around it and the threat of it is what makes it so difficult. The fact that you have the Frieza promo, which kind of forces them into playing into it, is such a huge boon, along with the fact that your leader skill is going to naturally trigger it. There's just so many things. Like if you saw in my games, like just tapping something, playing a Bergamo, tapping the opponent out, and then going for a kill turn, that was kind of just the bread and butter throughout the weekend. And then even in my Swiss games, it was kind of the, lining up before the Cell Zeno turns. Bergamo was such a huge asset in that respect. So again, probably the best card in the deck. Also, if you noticed, we talked about Cell Zeno so far, but if you take here, you have 12 because you have 5, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you'll start to see that math pretty much everywhere in this deck itself. Definitely intentional. So 4 Bergamo. Next, we have our 4 best targets for Universe 9 Assemble, Shapil. People play around Universe 9 Assemble a lot, and I'll get into that when I get to U9 Assemble as a card, but they play around a lot. But you still want to have access to 4 Shapil, because if your opponent does make the mistake, you want to punish them. And then also, when you're going for game, you're going to want a 15k attacker for you to be able to find in your deck, because you're going to be able to tap your opponent out, as you saw on a stream with Bergamo, and just in general with Bergamo, you'll tap them out, and then you'll just be able to use your U9 Assembles at will to be able to just fill your board with 15ks and swarm the opponent so you can get them dead. So 4 Shapil, don't play any less. Matchups where your opponent's playing around it, this is a good card to side out in some numbers. So for instance, when I was playing against Legends, this was one of the first cards that got sided out along with the Mecha Frieza 4-drops, because I just knew that the way that he played the game, he was never going to give me an opportunity to resolve those cards, so they just ended up coming out. But in a lot of matchups, you just keep these in just because that ability to swarm so early and be able to get the game closed on turn 3. 2 Basil. Card, it's fantastic. Probably the best 1-drop battle card in the game. Can't beat it. Draw a card, being able to attack. Won me the game again in top 4, where I comboed everything but kept this single card in hand, just kind of as like my ace in the hole. But just in general, Basil always pays off. There's also some instances where you're going to choose the U9 Assemble when you're trying to like dig. You'll U9 Assemble, take the life, draw 2. You'll play a Basil instead of a Shapil to draw an extra card. So that's something that comes up often too. But Basil, fantastic card. Can't go wrong. 2 Swift Retaliation Coolers. Like I said, huge part of your game plan, especially against Invoker, is just setting up a script where you can win the game off of leader swing plus cooler. So playing 2 increases my odds of being able to see more than 1 throughout the game. And that's how I beat Legends in game 3. Basically, I knew his leader ability. He was going to take 1. So my whole entire plan was up until that point, digging as hard as possible to find the second copy. So then when he tried to take it when he was at 1 life, he would see 2, and then I was able to close out the game. So 2 Swift Retaliation Coolers in the main. Also, they go in line with your Cell Zeno plan. If you can Cell Zeno with open energy, you then can Swift Retaliation the cooler, Swift Retaliation Cooler for the negate. 2 Graded Bardock Warriors Warcry. 2 felt like the perfect number. I never wanted more. Potentially siding board in a 3rd against Invoker would have helped, but in general, fantastic card. It really just depends on your turn structures and if you have the energy for it, or if you're being offensive. It's more often than not, I was playing this card aggressively as rather defensively. There's just not many opportunities to play it defensively right now when you have so many other options. So 2 Rated Warcry felt like the right number. 2 Hidden Power E-Supreme guys. Again, playing into that mindset of being hyper aggressive, I wanted to get the game over as fast as possible, and I needed more win conditions than just Cell Zeno. So we're playing 2 Hidden Power E-Supreme guys in our main deck. Pretty funny. The top 8 match against Legends, he went over my deck list and saw 2 And of course was taken aback by that. But then in game 1 and game 2, I proceeded to have both of them in the early turns, and so I just swung and just double strike with my leader both times on turn 1 and turn 2, just to increase the pressure and increase the clock. It was a pretty funny moment that we both had. But in general, in that matchup too against Invoker, on the front side, I have to go to 15k on all my swings no matter what. So you saw that on stream. If you give them the opportunity to just leader skill to get over an attack, you're putting yourself so far behind and you have to get their life total down. So that was one thing, being aggressive in that matchup, comboing aggressively, using these E-Supreme Kais, super clutch, and having 2 was amazing. Never wanted any less, never wanted any more. So we'll go to our tech. 1 secret identity Mass Saiyan in the main. Good catch-all for removal. You don't always want to have it. You just only want it when you need it. So 1 felt like the right number main deck. 1 Bardock Awaken Instincts. Since I lean more towards that tempo combo side, having this to be able to search off of planet, to be able to get those extra draws to get you further in the deck was such a huge asset throughout the weekend. So loved having a 1-1 split in the main. And then I play 1 Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan in the main deck, just to tutor off of the planets that I play in the deck itself. So just something to kind of just give me an immediate advantage over the Mirror, over King Piccolo, over Vegeks, etc. Just having access to it in the main deck is so important. So those are my 3 kind of like techie choices in the main deck. So super combos, this is where I got really fancy thanks to talks with Eddie, Richard Zapp. So we're playing 2 Krillin moments before comeback. Filter, draw 2 super combos are just so strong. And now that, since you're playing this type of deck and you have access to the promo, the ability to tap your opponent's resources really easily, so you don't need to lean on Zamasu. And then, of course, going into set 13, you get to cheat even more because of power of a Super Saiyan, so 2 Krillins felt good. We went with 1 Counterblast on Gohan just to tutor off of your planet. And as you guys saw in one of my games, when I had to play around Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, I tutored for this, played it, tapped the Mass Saiyan, and then swung into it with my leader, which was a big advantage for me. So being able to have access to this card just felt really good over the weekend. Great suggestion by Eddie and Richard, being able to have this included in my super combo package. And then 1 Zamasu, just because the logic of you could have done 2 Gohans, but having access to deck lists in Top Cut made it more advantageous to have the 1 Zamasu, because if the opponent's playing around it and they know you they know you play at least 1 copy, it's always something they have to think about. So having the 1 copy included was amazing. And of course it came up in games as well. Never really that relevant in getting the opponent tapped out or setting up Bergamo, but of course really important. For battle cards, the last one, of course, is our secret rare Selzeno. The baddest man on the planet, does everything you ever want in a secret rare, gets the opponent dead. Card is absolutely incredible. Won so many games. Being able to set it up at will in this deck is what makes this deck so powerful. And having a finisher that you can play on turn 3, turn 5, some games even turn 2 is pretty absurd based on this deck's build. So this is your finisher. This is how you're winning the game a lot of the time. And it's what bails you out. So games that are going sideways, all you have to do is just, okay, well, how can I figure out the math to get 12, and then play yourselves in and go for game. So going to the extra card packages, again, I have a very different split than what most people play. I do play the 4 United Symbol, of course. This card, like, just being a take a life draw 2 is insane itself, right? If you get to tutor off of it, that's awesome. But me, like, if you have the opportunity to watch any of my games, I use this card. I don't sit around and wait for it. If my opponent's going to play around it, it doesn't matter. The more cards that I can see, that's how I'm going to win the game. Being able to find all my answers, which you'll see in my extra card package, that's how I end up winning a lot of these games. I just see more cards than my opponent, I have more answers, and then I have the ability to get to 12 or find myself Zeno, because I'll take myself down to 1 if I have to find it. And if it's my last life, it is what it is, but I'm going to give myself every opportunity to find the card. So playing this, like, don't listen to what anyone else says. Like, if you lose value on this by not being able to play someone, don't worry about it. Drawing those cards is going to get you that much closer to everything else you need to win the game. And I can't stress that enough. We play 3 Final Flashes in the main. Card's absolutely incredible. Turns off everything that you're worried about. Great defensively, incredible offensively, because you can stack them at will for free. Won a lot of games by just pumping things with Final Flash offensively when trying to go for a double strike, or if it was on a Cell Zeno or just my leader. Just having that was just so powerful. 3 Giant Ball. This plays into that idea of turn 1 having access to Giant Ball plus the Full Assault Frieza from Battle Evolution. Giant Ball is just a great card. You saw it come up on stream throughout the day. You know how good it is. Having it turn 1, turn 0, whatever, having it that early in the game, being able to draw cards, that's how you're getting the deck running. Big props to Frisco Foz for talking me into the card, because I was playing other cards, because I was at first I hadn't found this really aggressive build yet. I was kind of in the mid-range side, and Frisco giving me that information, or getting me on Giant Ball, really allowed me to take the deck in this really aggressive slant by really leaning into the 4-drop Mecha Frieza. Playing 4 copies meant that having access to Giant Ball just made the deck that much better, that much more aggressive. So 3 Giant Balls. Our negates, our hard negates outside of Frieza, we play 3 Frieza armor reinforcements. Card is great. Starting at 5 life, being able to access it whenever you want, taking a life, playing a blocker came up huge for me. It's also kind of cute because if you have 1 energy, you can still play it on your front side if you need that extra defense. But having this across the course of the weekend felt amazing. It was great to be able to have something to take myself from exactly 5 to 4 that was a negate, as opposed to having to use an extra card to do so. And then getting that blocker, and then the blocker then allows you, because if they swing, you activate blocker, it gives you a chance to awaken during a combo step, and then you can proceed to do other things. So that felt really strong, having access to this card at 3 copies. I'm not sure if I'll keep it at 3 copies going forward. It probably end up being 2 and then 1 flying Nimbus, because my list plays 0 Nimbus throughout the 65. So that's something to keep in mind. Instead, I lean on this because, again, same process as Zamasu, right? Your opponent's going to play around Nimbus naturally. So sorry, this is my dog Jackson. So is the threat of Nimbus actually better than the card Nimbus itself? And so that was the theory that I went with. So that's why I leaned on 3 of these. 2 planets in the main, just to be able to have access to Dark Power, Black Mass Saiyan, Bardock Awakened Instincts. And then Eddie brought up a great point. You use a planet, you search through your deck, you'll be able to tell, without actually having to look for it. You'll be able to tell if Celzeno is in your deck or not. Just because you're passing through your deck, you'll be able to see, oh, my secret rare's there. So this was nice because it helps you determine whether or not you need to be aggressively taking your life to try and find your Celzeno, or if you know it's in your deck. So that was something that was a pretty cool idea from Eddie, is that you can't exactly search to see if it's there, but you're going to pass by it. So playing 2 planets was a great option. Being able to get your Raider's Warcry, being able to get your Dark Power, your Awakened Instincts, your super combo, having 2 in the main felt great. 2 Tyrannical Blow. Card super overperformer over the course of the weekend. Being able to hit anything 3 or less, which includes Topo, Heroic Prospect, any of the stuff that's in the King Piccolo deck, basically. Being able to hit a battle card plus a unison is just gross and absurd. Card was just absolutely incredible having in the main deck. Against Invoker for Rival Seeker, awesome. Just card is super clutch. Not playing any copies in your 65 is just silly. Card's too good not to play. And then our Singleton, our other secret rare, Cold Bloodlust. Card's great. I didn't play it that much over the weekend, didn't see it as often as I'd like. But Cold Bloodlust, fantastic card. Have to play it, especially because you're a Frieza deck. So that is the main deck construction. So now I will go into showing you the sideboard. And then, of course, I can give you some information about the sideboard as well. So for our sideboard, we have 3 Vegeta Unisons of Fury. Dark Broly matchup, this was huge. I played against Hatchiak. This was huge as well, siding it in. You don't need this card in your main deck. You're going to be able to win games pre-board since you're so aggressive, but having this in your post-board is such a huge asset. So playing 3 copies in the board right now. Card only came up a few times, but it was definitely nice having that option. I think you have to play it just because of the threat of some of these decks out there. So good to have access to it. 2 Release from Evil, strictly for Reboot Gohan. You could bring it in against other decks. I never wanted to, just because as good as it is, I would just rather play so many of the other cards in my deck that allow me to actually stop my opponent from doing things. So played 2 for Reboot Gohan. Fortunately, didn't run into Reboot Gohan, so didn't have to worry about it, but you have to have it there. Cards that underperform, 2 Final Spirit Cannon. I had originally some in the main deck because I was really aggressive at one point in tapping my opponent out, but due to Eddie's advice, ended up swapping for a little bit more defense. So 2 Spirit Cannons went to the sideboard. I thought that they'd come up against stuff like Invoker to help me tap them, tap an energy to be able to then play a Bergamo. But it just never really came up and just felt really gimmicky. It just wasn't impactful enough, so I just never brought it in. And I just took a different approach in those games. 1 Son Goku Absolute Annihilation. 2nd Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. 2 Son Gohan Changing Histories in Planet. So basically just the package here would come in just based off the matchup. So if you're against a blue deck, you'd bring in these, and then against Invoker, it depends on play or draw. If you're on the play, you'll bring this in. If you're on the draw, you won't. This card's just not going to come up in time. It's not going to matter. You're going to need your other answers to get that job done. Mostly relying on cards like your 4th Final Flash, which is in the board, and Tyrannical Blow to be able to stop, and then Giant Ball to be able to Giant Ball the Apex of Power as well. So you're not going to need to bring this in on the draw, but on the play, you definitely want to bring it in against Invoker. Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, again, you'll bring in your 3rd planet and your Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan against matchups where you know it's relevant. King Piccolo, Vegeks, etc. You'll bring this in against your blue decks, these 3 cards here. This is where that's going to come up as often. Again, blue, Invoker, you'll bring in these 3 cards. You'll change your configuration event so you just have those tech options. So all those kind of just go together in one package. And then last 2 sidebar cards, we have a 2nd Secret Identity Mass Saiyan. Again, there's matchups where you need that widespread removal. Card is fantastic. And then we have our singleton, 1 copy of Mecha Frieza, the Broken Seal. When you can't figure out what your 15th sideboard card is, go with a card that stops your opponent from playing a card you're worried about. So Mecha Frieza was the sideboard choice. Overall, deck was heck of fun to play. 100% my style of play. Very aggressive. I hope you had a chance to watch this stream with Gamerz. I tried to play my absolute best, tried to play as clean as possible. At times I wasn't always perfect, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, thank you so much for all the support from everybody. And I hope you guys have a great week. And felt really good to kind of put myself back on the map again when it comes to being, a competitive player, just because I haven't been able to do so in so long. So, and it was my best finish to date in this whole entire game, which is kind of crazy to think about. But it was a good weekend. Made some money. Hung out with friends. And again, thank you all so much for your support. I hope you enjoyed this video. #ScrubFam is best fam. Thanks. Bye.